This is the brand new release from Eduard, the FW190 A4 in 1/48 scale. It's a Profi Pack edition, and this is kit number 82142. There has been a lineage of Focke Wulf 190s from Eduard, and they've done almost all of them as far as I can see over the years, up to the D9s with the longer fuselage. And these are completely new tools, so this is the start of a new range. Presumably they're starting at A4, and we'll get the whole new line again. And there's quite a few important additions to this one that make it stand out from the others. So getting into the kit, we'll start with the instructions, and there's a really nice write-up there telling you all about the Focke Wulf's production. The 190's production, running on from the A0 right the way through. Goes right the way through the development. And here you can see there's quite a few parts that aren't used in this build that would lead you to believe that there are different versions coming. And paint call-outs are right the way through in guns, Mr. Hobby, lacquers and acrylics. So as usual with Eduard, we work all the way through here. We've got some photo-etch parts. There's a nice option here with parts without detail if you want to use the photo-etch, or parts with detail if you want to use the included decals. And as we work through, you've got the build-up of the cockpit. Everything you'll start to see is a little bit more logically thought out compared to the older Focke Wulfs that they've released, and also it's a bit more simplified in the way that it goes together. And of course there's a lot more detail throughout. So it go on through there, completing the cockpit with the photo-etch seat belts and harnesses going on. Very nicely detailed seat there. Then we're on to the instrument panel and the fuselage and cockpit sidewalls. So there's quite a lot of detail all the way going through here. The two halves come together, and then there's a small amount of engine detail there in a plug there for that you'll see through the open cowling. And then as the fuselage comes together, we're straight on to making parts for the underside of the wing, well, the underside of the upper parts of the wing as they get joined to make up the entire wing. And parts here for the guns, and a few bits here with exhausts. And then we've got the lower part of the wing and parts for the undercarriage that you'll see through the bottom being made here. Again, all very well detailed, and a lot more simplified and better thought out compared to their earlier releases. Here with making parts for the undercarriage bay and the wheel bay. So that's very good. And then the wing, the upper parts and the lower part of the wing come together to make the complete wing section, which is then brought together with the fuselage. And the top parts of the fuselage and engine cowling are put in here. Then we start working at the horizontal stabilisers at the rear with the fin as well, and the front parts of the cowling and ailerons. And as you can see, we start to come together quite quickly there. Then we're on to the undercarriage. Again, this looks highly detailed here with good wheel, with good tyre tread. And quite a lot going on here as far as the undercarriage is concerned. So it should make for a very well detailed model. Some nice parts for the tail wheel here and photo-etch that are added, so that will give a bit of refinement. And it's best to pick, as with most Eduard kits that have more than one option, pick your marking option before you begin, as there are usually some parts that are specific to each option. And here, this photo-etch part is for marking A only. And then getting to the completion of the build, we start with we build up the propeller, parts for the canopy section. So you've got two options if you want to open or close, the two different types of canopy. Then everything comes together here to finish off the build, and we're checking off the undercarriage here to make sure you've got the right alignment. And then we're working through the canopy sections. And we go on to the included masks here for the canopy sections, which you always get in a Profi pack from Eduard. And that completes the build. So now we go on to the marking options, which again are fantastic and very well detailed in the colour callouts. So here we got marking A for an aircraft based in France in January 1943, with a very nice standard scheme of ROM 74 and 75 on top with 76 underneath, and a few bits of modelling of the ROM colours on the top with a spinner in ROM 70. We've also got the yellow there as well, which stands out quite well. Then we've got a aircraft in the Eastern Front in early 1943 with a bit of a winter camo, again over the standard pattern. Whether you'd want to do that first and then put your winter camo over the top, or just try and get a modelling effect with the winter camo, would be up to you. Then we're on to the option which I'm most excited by, which is the aircraft used in Tunisia in December 1942. I was always amazed that the Focke Wulfs made it to North Africa. It's not something I knew until recently, so I'm looking forward to this one. Some interesting options here. I believe this aircraft arrived in the standard colours in the schemes that we saw at the start with the France scheme, and then was overpainted with the sand colour, and that's depicted here in a bit of mottling around the decals here. So whether that's whether you'd want to do the whole scheme as it would be, apply the decals certainly with the crosses, and then paint the sand colour up to it, or do a sand colour and then apply the decals over the top, that would be up to you. I think I'd probably go for doing it as a clean finish instead of trying to attempt this, because it could go wrong quite easily. And then we've got D option, which is for France, again in January 1943, so that's another option like the A version with the standard scheme. And then the final option is perhaps the most interesting of all, which is for a Eastern Front aircraft again, with a very unusual marking scheme. This was specific to this Austrian pilot who decided to mark his aircraft like this. So again, this is one with the standard scheme of ROM 74, 75 over 76, but then that was painted over with green, brown and white in a disruptive camouflage pattern. So quite a complex pattern to do, but it would look very good if you managed to pull it off. And then we've got good stenciling data sheet there to show you how to place the stencil data, which is included and seems to be full and readable on the decal sheet. And then on the back there's a bit of an advert for the Eduard parts that are also made in Brassen to go with this. So you've got a full cockpit, engine and gun bay. So moving through the kit, we've got the two decal sheets. So we've got the stencil data and the decal sheet themselves. Again, depending on what version you get of this and what country you're in, you may not have swastikas included. This part will be cut off, but you will have these parts here, which you can make up a swastika if you so wish. They're printed by Eduard, so these aren't cartograph decals, but they're extremely good right the way over, and you've also got instrument panels here included in quite a number of... There's two parts there for the instrument panel, and the side panels are moulded, and the side panels feature here as well, and they're clear, so you'd spray the plastic parts with the interior colour and then put these over, and that should give quite a nice effect. All of them are in good register, look very good, very thin, and as with most Eduard decals, they shall not cause a problem. Then with Profipack, as you get with all Profipack releases, we've got a very nice etch set here, which includes seat belts, which are the newer version, so there's nothing to add to these. You just place them onto these parts here, which is the leather protective strap for the lap of the pilot. All the other parts are already attached, so that saves quite a bit of fiddly work and makes them look extremely well detailed. The instrument panel and side panels are really, really good. Looks like they finally got the colours right. That looks pretty close to ROM 66 to me. Usually there's a bit of a problem with matching up the colours sometimes with the coloured photo etch, but this looks the best I've seen so far. It's obviously brand new, that's a 2017 version of it. Then we won't be able to pick this up too well, but we've got the canopy masks, which are all pre-cut, so you just peel them off. You just get the edges for the rear canopy, so you do need to put a piece to cover the middle part, but it saves the fiddly bits in the corner. Then we're on to the clear parts, which are absolutely crystal clear, very highly detailed, nice riveting detail throughout, and as usual, absolutely no problem with those. They're absolutely perfect. So you get many different options here. You're only using these two here. This is the bubbled canopy for later versions, as I've said. We're going to get quite a few releases, I think, in this new with these new tool 190s. So then moving on to the first sprue, this has quite a few small parts. As you can see, there's will be quite a lot on here that isn't used, so there's no problem across this sprue. There's no flash. Ejector pin marks where they are in clever places, so you won't see them. There are not any seam lines, which you do get on some Eduard kits, and it's extremely well executed. You've got the gun barrels here, which I'm going to struggle to pick up here on camera, but these are actually drilled out and hollow. So all of these gun barrels are hollow right the way through, quite deep as well, deep enough for you not to have to worry about that. It's extremely good and very high quality. We're talking probably higher quality, well, we're talking higher quality than Tamiya here for refinement. Let's just hope the fit is up to that quality, which I'm sure it will be for a brand new Eduard release. That's a very nice sprue. Then on to the next sprue with parts for the cowling and gun and tops of the fuselage here for the gun covers, as well as parts for the wing and ailerons, and undercarriage parts, as well as drop tanks here. Quite a few of bits of this sprue again aren't used. Here on the horizontal stabilizers, you may be able to see the beginning of what makes this kit the next level compared to previous releases of the FW190, and we've got full riveting detail on all surfaces right across this aircraft, and it is absolutely superbly executed. It's extremely crisp, to scale, and it's hard to know how they've actually managed to do it. It's extremely good right the way across. So that's that sprue, and then on to the last sprue of this size, where we've got two propellers here. Again, this is the wider bladed one, where we won't be using that in this release. You've got two cockpit sections here with the floor and the rear of it. We've got wheel bays here, 3 different types, with extremely nice detail right the way through there, recessed parts as well as raised detail. That's one of the things that they get, they do very well on here, is the mixture of the recessed and raised detail, which is extremely good right the way through here. And with this part, we've got detail all the way through it. No problem whatsoever there. That'll look very good looking up into the into the undercarriage and wheel bay. And I can't really speak highly enough of what I'm looking at here. It's top notch right the way across. So that's those parts, and then on to the final bits where we've got the wings. And this is where you really see, I'll put some pictures up, some high resolution pictures at the end of this, so you can just see what I'm talking about here with the riveting and the recessed panel lines. It is by far the best I've seen. If you think about some of the Eduard 109s, for instance, the releases that they've done, they're good. This is a step up from that. This is absolutely superb. A2 scale and no problem whatsoever, with full riveting detail right the way across here and extremely nice refined recessed panel lines. You've got some detail on the underside here as well, which will go to make up part of the wheel bay. Again, there is no problems with that whatsoever. And then the final sprue is the fuselage halves, which again are very cleverly designed, with a few very cleverly designed and extremely well executed. Again, riveting detail right the way across. We've got horizontal and vertical rivets. As far as I can see, they haven't missed a single line of rivets, which do stand out on the Focke Wulf 190. Internal parts, again, are really nice. We've got a few ejector pin marks, but they are out of the way, so should cause no problem with the build. And it's just very crisp, very nice, and should make for a very logical build-up. And I can't see there being any fit issues here at all. So that's very good. So that is the Eduard FW190 A4 Profit Pack Edition, brand new in 2017, and it's kit number 82142, and that is extremely highly recommended. It's the best FW190 I've seen in 1/48 scale.